Good morning, everybody. Looks like we have quorum. We have Councilmember Foley, Councilmember Perales, and Councilmember Davis present. We will get started. We have no updates to our work plan, and we have no consent. We'll go ahead and dive right into our reports, starting with our Development Services Transformation update.
Thank you, Chair Carrasco. Rosalind Huey, Director of the Department of Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement, and I'm joined this morning by several members of the Development Services Partners. We have Matt Lush, who is Development Services Transformation Product Owner and also Deputy Director in Public Works, Eric Garafo from the City Manager's Office, Robert Manford, Deputy Director in Planning, James Sung, who is Deputy Director in our Building Division, Hector Estrada, our Fire Marshal, Rachel Vanderveen, Deputy Director in Housing, and I hope we have several other members in the audience from Development Services Partners, and I really hope I haven't forgotten anyone. It truly takes a village to do our work. So first, I want to share with the committee really exciting news. We are pleased to share that the Development Services Partners successfully launched the upgraded Amanda permitting system on November 4th. So this was a major milestone in our work. The project team has both replaced outdated servers while also upgrading from Amanda 6 to the more modern Amanda 7 platform. So the upgrade includes a cloud-based GIS, electronic content management system, and digital workflows that enable our staff to process permits more efficiently. These photos that you see on the slide here are just some of the 70 staff members who actually came into the offices over the weekend of November 1st and 2nd and 3rd. They were here throughout that time preparing us for going live on Monday morning and to also ensure that we were minimizing disruption to the service. Their testing was successful, and many months of work preceding the go live enabled us to really have a seamless transition. Our vendor who implements these major upgrades from cities across North America has actually really been stunned by how smooth the go-live process has gone. And also, as a small anecdote, I'd like to share that just a few weeks ago, I participated in a convening of big city planning directors from across the country. And this was a gathering of 27 planning directors from across the country. And during this convening, actually it's the first day, each planning director has the opportunity to share some of the successes and opportunities in their city, as well as some of the issues and challenges. So I shared our go live of Amanda 7 actually as a success. And it was so very interesting because the response I received from a couple of the planning directors was, don't do it. Don't do the upgrade. So really, I think this speaks to the complexity of the work, the importance of this major deployment, and I'm now happy to share with my fellow colleagues that we were successful in this major upgrade. So the real importance of the upgrade is how it now does set us up for future improvements. The new platform is just the first step that will enable us to implement additional technologies such as an updated public portal that would enhance our customer service for online permits and submitting plans online. And we know that digital applications save time, money, paper, and emissions, which actually aligns us with our goals of the city's smart climate strategies. And I also just want to note that this work aligns with City Manager Dave Sykes' enterprise priority of building the San Jose tomorrow and improving private development services. So now I'm going to turn it over to Matt Lush, who is going to walk us through our OKRs for the third quarter.
Morning. Well, when we last spoke, we shared our Q2 OKR performance by the team, and then shared and projected what these key results would be for Q3. And so here we have our measured key results here as we've done them. We shared our thinking and approach to the key result development, and really importantly, heard from you about a better way to communicate them. You'll see some delineations here that we hadn't shared before and some different colorizations that hopefully help communicate this. OKRs are being used in additional programs and projects implementations. This is one of the first ones that we're sharing them broadly and publicly. So we're finding our voice a bit and in better ways to communicate them, so we're learning as we go. You'll see this delineation from stretch and commits. We had this conversation last quarter about what the differences between these are and what our efforts are on those. For the prior quarter that was planned, this was planned in June, but it ended in September. We had 20 key results. 13 of them were commits and completed 54% of those commits. Prioritize the key results focused on Amanda 7. You can see those in bold. And completed or closed all of them. The yellow commits were then completed in October, very shortly after, and delivered early on our, we had committed for a November 12 launch and delivered early on that. You'll see 2 red commits. One is on the public portal testing, and the other one is on the geocortex in use. I'm paraphrasing a bit. On the public portal test, we learned early, and we tested early and found some changes and some challenges as we went along. Not one of our test users could get completed through the process in that testing. While this was a massive disappointment, it also produced a lot of learnings for as we're going for this next build. We tested early, and will guide our user-centered design in this next quarter. Also, it was not needed for our Amanda 7 build, so we deprioritized that focus. On the geocortex in use, it was launched in Q2, and we talked about it here in several places, and we had its aspiration for using it for our mailing lists readily in this quarter. The tool worked, but we found some data anomalies that we couldn't trust. And so the resources to diagnose and then fix were very focused on the Amanda 7 build, and so rather than pull them from that, we let them focus there. So working on it now, we are working on it now, and we hope to have a fix rolled out before the end of the calendar year. So our Q4 OKRs will come out shortly. You'll see that they represent a very focused and prioritized effort. But before that, Robert will provide some more detail on the update and the CEQA process improvements.
Good morning, Robert Manford, Deputy Director for Planning. Just wanted to give you some overview of some of the key improvements in the CEQA area. First, we've eliminated the firewall so our developers are able to see their documents before it's submitted to city and then subsequently to the public. We've also, since September 30th, published a list of pre-qualified environmental consultants who have experience throughout the state and beyond. These are very reputable firms that are going to be doing business with us. Some have already started. We've also launched the Environmental Consultant Roundtable so that we can get together every quarter with the consultants to talk about some of the key changes to the CEQA statutes and how they are being applied. We've also, since April 2019 till now, had about 5 training sessions for planning staff. And we are yet to have some in our ethics and planning practice and also historic preservation, which are certain key areas that we need to focus on. We also continue the quality assurance of documents. So in terms of review of our documents, every supervising planner will have to review the document that has already been reviewed by the project manager, and then it has to be signed off by the principal planner. And if it has to be pushed up through the hierarchy of planning, it also comes to Rosalind and myself to make decisions on those. So these are the key areas, and I'll be here to answer any specific questions that you may have.
So here we have our Q4 2019 OKRs, and you'll see they have a dominant focus on the two bold key results that are focused on launching Amanda 7. Staff was trained, and we delivered the project early. I can't emphasize enough, Rosalind talked a bit about the monumental effort it was to move these things along. It wasn't just a platform change of 6 to 7, it was all of the databases and servers behind the scenes. The team interaction from ITD and PBC IT and all of the key users were heavily involved. There were 70 people, I mean, Rosalind already mentioned, 70 people here on Saturday testing it and making sure that everything would function on November 4th. It was a massive commitment by staff. All of those got accomplished on time. We are now triaging the post-launch punch list and following up with user adoption. The other Q4 focus is on performance measures. We will baseline and report on 3 important themes: speed, throughput, and ease of use. Erica will detail a bit more of these in just a moment. The other Q4 key results are developing and lining up the Transformation 2020 planning and the work we'll be doing forthcoming in the coming year. The incomplete Q3 key results, ones from the prior quarter that we noted we did not complete, were either brought forward and identified in italics that you see there, or have been backlogged for a future quarter. We're not saying they're not going to get done, we're prioritizing and very focusing. The public portal work will pick back up in earnest in Q1 2020. The reduced count of key results is intentional, and these are all commits.
Good morning, Erica Graffo with the Innovation Office. So I'm going to be presenting on 2 slides today. The first is a real brief overview of the customer satisfaction survey, and then the next slide, and you'll see how that relates to the customer survey, is our performance measure goals for the quarter. So first, just a bit on the annual customer satisfaction survey. This is a survey that the development services partners have been doing since 2006, and the questionnaire and protocol has remained relatively similar since then. In the most recent survey, True North, who administers the survey, surveyed 1,000 customers who pulled a permit sometime between January of 2018 and January of 2019. These customers were randomly selected from our customer database. True North described the results as being generally positive, given that we're in a regulatory environment. Of the surveyed respondents, 75% were satisfied with the process across all individual stages. Now, that being said, we fully recognize that we can and should do better to both speed up and reduce the complexity of our processes. Which leads me to this quarter, as Matt described, we're setting a goal to baseline and report on some key persistent performance measures. So how does this relate to the customer satisfaction survey? Well, the annual survey serves as a good guidepost for our performance, and we can use it to validate our progress each year. For example, on the graph that you see here, it shows customer satisfaction toward different aspects of the permit application and issuance process. Overall, customers are satisfied with many of our services. Bad experiences are the exception, not the norm, but we absolutely recognize that there are areas that we can improve on, and we also need more frequent mile markers to track and improve our process. This quarter, 3 of our key results are to baseline and report on performance measures on speed, throughput, and ease of use. We picked these because they tie back to the lowest satisfaction markers in the survey. First, speed. We're looking at how we can reduce the amount of time processing applications through investments in people, process, and technology. Second, throughput. Increasing the efficiency of applications so that customers know what's required of them, and it's clearly communicated so staff can then efficiently process the work. And lastly, ease of use. This is really around reducing staff time for permits that should not require a lot of staff assistance. Things like online permits, fee estimates, over-the-counter issuance, making it as easy as possible so that we can redirect more staff time to helping with the higher effort projects. This quarter's OKRs focus on developing overall performance measures that can guide operations and improvements and report out on our progress. And we anticipate developing performance measures for key areas of concern, things like ADUs, inspections, high-impact development. We recognize that this has been a long-standing desire of Council and of the development community, and to see data, patterns, insights, and action for improvement. And we agree. And we also see this as a fundamental step toward the city manager's enterprise priority of driving development. I'll turn it back to Rosalind to close.
Actually, that concludes our presentation on the first portion of the agenda for Development Services Transformation. Also, I forgot to mention that many of us are wearing these great T-shirts, and so we can unveil. So
If you don't mind standing up and modeling for us, that would be awesome. Let's look
We're
at
glad
you.
to.
Yes. And stand there for just a second. Hold up, hold up. Smile. Thank you. Thank you so much. Are you ready for some questions or comments?
Absolutely. Actually, before questions, and I was remiss in acknowledging a very important member of our team, Alex Powell, is the Chief of Staff for Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement, and he's just been with us, I think, about 7 months now. But Alex has been absolutely instrumental in working on this team. He's had to herd a bunch of cats, and he was very instrumental in actually pulling together today's presentation. So I know Alex is in the audience. I just wanted to acknowledge him.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And with that, thank you so much, Rosalind, and thank you to your entire team for that presentation. I will go ahead and turn to my team. Councilmember Foley?
Just a couple of quick questions. Congratulations on successfully launching Amanda 7. That's very, very exciting. We've waited for this, and hopefully the user's experience will be a very positive one and an easy one as it sounds so far. What's the number one feedback you're hearing from them, both in a positive nature and a needs correction nature?
I'm probably going to ask Matt to chime in on answering that question. So first and foremost, just want to remind the committee that this upgrade of the permitting system, at this point, it's more internal. So
Okay.
It's getting our staff the tool they need, the upgraded platform, the new workflows. It's really an improvement on this for the staff. So the staff continues to be trained to get used to the new system. Our next step, our customers will be seeing the difference. So first and foremost, this sets us up for the new public portal. So this will really enhance our customers' ability to apply for permits online, to track the status of their permits online. So that'll be the next step. And also, this also sets us up to be fully integrated for electronic plan review, which we know is very critical for our customers. Matt, was there anything else you want to add?
Surprisingly, there's not been a lot of negative complaints. I think there'll be some folks who have some questions about, because again, a lot of it is just where the buttons are from where they were before. Because of the robust training that all of the groups did ahead of time, there's not been a lot. And so it's one of those things where you're looking around and the IT staff is looking around like, what's going to happen? Like, because they're not hearing a lot of complaints or challenges. They were really looking forward to this opportunity. The Amanda 6, both the environment, the software and hardware behind the scenes was pretty sluggish. They're looking for better performance. We're not hearing complaints about performance. There's going to be typical bugs of things that didn't work, but there's 19 integrations into this system, and they all worked when they built them all in. I mean, it's one of those things where we're going to look around like, wait a minute. Not many bad things have been happening. And so the typical bugs, and right now there's there were some improvements that they wanted before launch that we held in backlog, and they're working on those kind of tickets right now. They're kind of nuanced improvements that they're looking for and getting used to the way the reporting's built out of the system.
That's really wonderful to hear. Making our staff's job more efficient is key. So do you have an idea yet? I know you just launched it, so you may not have an idea of how much this has improved their efficiency and save them time so they can get more work done and be more efficient in the process? Or too early to call?
I'll call it too early to call.
Okay.
And we don't have metrics gauging from one to the next because it could be wholly different. There's a lot of adoption going on right now, people adopting the tool and getting used
Right.
to it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll just add, that's one of the reasons why we want to do the performance measures around speed and throughput so that we can test the before and after. Even though we're in development of the performance measures now, we can still look back in time and see how long did it take before we implemented and after.
Okay, thank you. And just one other quick question. One of the number one complaints in the customer satisfaction response is the office time. What is the average time that someone is waiting to be processed or to meet?
So, Councilmember, are you
Okay, I'm
referring
hearing
to
all day, I'm hearing-
Are you referring to wait time for our customers at the permit center?
Well, the question
or-
is, I'm just referring the survey, and the line item is wait time at office reasonable. 24.2% say it's not reasonable, 13.7%, or they strongly disagree that it's reasonable. 13.7% say somewhat disagree that it's reasonable. So what is the time on average?
James on Building Division. I believe that questions more reflects wait time at the permit center. So person come in with certain the inquiries or services that we provide, and depends on the day, depends on the resource that we have, they may have to wait for 30 minutes to an hour or even more. So that's probably wait time that they are referring to in this report.
Okay. Maybe I'd like more information about, as we go forward, more specifically, when they're asking that question, be more specific about what they're referring to so we can then address that issue. But thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Foley. Councilmember Perales?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to lend some appreciation to all the staff. We weren't clapping because your shirts are cool, but although it did help. But I would say that we recognize how difficult this work was to tie this in to the daily tasks that everybody has to do already. And we have been waiting anxiously, as all of you have, for this, and certainly through this ad hoc committee have heard all the progress and then the slowing of progress and and the challenges. And so to get to this milestone certainly is worth the appreciation and the applause. And so I also am excited that you took so much pride in it, that you actually did go out and make a shirt like this to show the pride. And to wear it here today to demonstrate that you all work together as a team to get to this milestone. So I just wanted to offer again my congratulations.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I also want to commend you for getting through this this huge milestone. It's awesome, and I think it really shows the dedication of our city staff to come in on the weekend and get everything tested, and getting 70 people to do that on the weekend is amazing. So thank you all for your hard work, and all of you in the audience who worked on it too. I think it's really great. I have a couple of questions on the presentation. I'm a little confused about going through our OKRs from Q3, and there are only a few that were either yellow or red that got brought forward to Q4. What happens to the ones that don't? Are they no longer key results that we care about? Like, I don't understand why they don't get brought forward.
So as I said in my comments, that they are either backlogged or they're listed on Q4, and so they will get done. And it's not that we don't care about them, it's they will get done. It might not be getting done in Q4. Some of the things, like a lot of the public portal work, is going to get done and starting in Q1 2020. And so rather than post it as something not to get done in Q4, we were debating how to list those.
Okay.
They are definitively on our backlog and will get done, and you'll see them represented in future quarter OKRs.
So will we see, so we only see these once a quarter when we meet, and I don't remember what was in Q2 that didn't get brought forward. Is there going to be some kind of accounting for the ones that fall off and go back on at some other time? Will we have some note where they were?
We'll think of a way to represent them.
How are you tracking
Yeah,
that?
again, as I said, some of our challenges, this is our first foray of a large project, speaking about OKRs and kind of a nuanced level in a public setting, kind of how the back office is working on these. And so we're trying to find our way to communicate them, and so we're hearing loud and clear that how do we communicate and list that backlog of topics? Because there's even way more things than this that we have in our log for 2020 that will get listed. So as we look for the roadmap for 2020, we'll see these things slug in, and perhaps we'll find a way to note when those things were some other OKR that did not get completed.
Yeah, I guess the one that popped out at me is the 6 new staff onboarded in the internal.
Yeah, so that one.
And then it changed. There's a hire or contract fill 2 out of 3 fire development services vacancies. I don't know if that's the same
Yeah, it's different.
thing
And
or
so,
different, right? And then what happens to those 6 that if less than 65% of the goal was left, are there 3 more hires that need to get onboarded? Like, what happens with that?
So the challenge was we listened to you, and then we did what you asked and reduced the count on key results for this quarter and not listed all of the things that we might have listed. And so we listened, and then how do we report and kind of denote that as we go forward and communicate these? One of the challenges, so these 6 new staff members were part of the budget asks that were added for this fiscal year. And so we were pretty progressive in thinking we can get all 6 hired and onboarded in the first quarter of the fiscal year when the money finally is available for those positions. Several were brought on, some were kept, and so I think we have 4 of the 6 hired and 5 of the 6 hired on board as of right now. But do we list this as a key result right now as a stretch? So we decided no stretch goals this quarter listed on our OKRs, a reduced count, so we have a very focused towards the Amanda 7 build. And the separate item was that you mentioned for the fire one was a different item, and Chief Estrada might be able to help with some of the details specific as to the status of those.
Okay. Chief, do you want to chime in?
Sure, thank you. So with regard to our staffing needs, some of the ways that we've been trying to fill those is we are down a certain number. We're actually down a total of 5 people on the development side. So having difficulty in filling those positions, we've addressed the actual root cause, and we're working with HR, and we're working with some of the other partners to try to figure out how to fill those gaps. Many of those will take more than 3 to 6 months, so we have short-term and long-term, and they're running in parallel. So we currently have made some progress to fill the short-term gaps, and we're working actually we're making progress on those end results that will allow us to onboard people permanently. One of the additional issues that we have with regard to this type of work that on the development side is that the onboarding process and getting to that full utilization of plan check engineer or inspector, it takes a bit of time, so it can take up to 2 or 3 years to get full utilization out of them. But there are a lot of moving parts. Be happy to talk about them, but that's essentially in a nutshell where we are with fire.
Some of these, it says hire or contract, so you think there might be a possibility to get a contractor to come in and kind of fill the gap in an emergency situation while you're hiring?
Correct. That's one of our short-term gap fillers, and we actually do have 1 contract employee, and we have 2 retiree hires that have actually been able to come in and start working after 1 day of orientation. So those solutions have been very effective for us, and we're measuring the actual efficacy of that right now, and it looks like it's moving. It's been positive.
Great. That's great to hear. Thank you. And then I might have missed it when you said this, going to the survey on 8, I think it is. it says on the bottom of the key conclusions, discretionary customers and ministerial customers. Can you describe the difference between the two of those? I'm sorry if I missed it.
No, so discretionary customers are those customers who have to go to a public hearing to get action on their development application. So those are customers who are going to a rector's hearing, planning commission, or city council, and those bodies are taking discretionary actions. For ministerial customers, those are customers who are bringing in their permits and can get served by staff, so it doesn't require a public hearing. So those are administrative applications that staff are handling.
Thank you. And then I just have two more questions. So I've been hearing a lot about inspections backlog, and I understand we're talking about Amanda, and it's the front part of the process, the beginning of the process, but I've been hearing about inspections backlog, and there's no other place to bring it up in the agenda today other than development services. Can somebody tell me a little bit about what's happening with inspections and scheduling inspections?
Right. So each day we have a maximum number of capacity, the inspection counts that we could provide to our customers based on the staffing that we have. And currently we are out or backlog to about 12 to 16 days, and it depends on each week. For example, we have a backlog.
I've heard 3 weeks.
Pardon me?
I've heard 3 weeks plus.
Yeah, that depends on, so about 12 to 16 days. We do have an exact number that what we are behind or delayed when they call for inspection. But also you have to understand that right now we are going through this new code cycle, and which is effective 2019 in January 1st, 2020. So we do have a lot of trainings for our staff, from plan review to inspection group in different areas, and it's not training is not specially provided in San Jose, it's in different cities. So in order to be more effective for this new code, those are the training times. So if we try our best to make our staff available as possible while those trainings are ongoing, and that kind of impact our capacity. So I do hear right now at this point, which we from August to September, and even though it's getting into winter season, but still construction demand is very high, and the training for these items, and I think that kind of hinders our operation at this point. The good news is we just hired about 6 new inspectors, and they'll be joining us. And also, as you know, that these new employees, inspectors do need a training, so it takes some time to bring them up to speed. So that's true, we are somewhat behind, but we are doing all the things that we can to provide adequate service as best as we can.
Thank you. When you say 12 to 16 days, do you mean 12 to 16 business days?
That's correct.
Okay, so those numbers jive. Thank you. That is 3 weeks. Thank you. That's really helpful to know. So it sounds like we have 6 new hires to address the backlog, but we also have people going out for training. So this should be a short-term issue.
It's hard to say, but I like to say it's a short-term issue, but it's kind of ongoing. It's not like we do have new people joining us, but we just also been notified that one of our division managers is retiring and kind of moving on. So that creates a gap. So it's kind of an ongoing effort, and maybe we need to address this more in different setting. But I'd like to assure you that we are trying to recruit more, provide proper training so we can be effective. And we are also looking at these different types of priorities that kind of align with the city's priorities, so we can provide the inspections quicker for those type of projects. Also, we are looking at this automation of scheduling inspections, trying to make it more efficient, and that takes a little bit of time. Since now we completed with A7 implementation, hopefully we have some help from PBC IT, so we can modify these programs a little bit better, so we can adapt more to what's needed for our customers.
Thank you. Rosalind, is this something that will be a focus for 2020?
In terms of staff recruitment for the department?
Not just staff recruitment, but making the inspections process. So you're working on the beginning part of the process, but you have people that are in the process right now. And I know inspections are key to, if they don't get their inspections on time, their project takes longer, right? And we know what that means.
Right.
So is there a plan to kind of try to walk and chew gum at the same time, where you're trying to work on the beginning of the process and the approval process, but also maybe the inspections process in 2020? And if so, can you bring that to the ad hoc committee in a similar way?
Absolutely. So yes, we're working on a parallel process to actually address the staffing needs, as well as figuring out how we can fill in the gaps, and we'd be glad to report on that at the next ad hoc committee meeting.
Thank you. That'd be really helpful.
Also, council member, I'd like to add on to this item is that also we need to kind of work with our customers a little bit better, because people are scheduling for inspections, but many times that we realize they don't cancel the inspections that they don't need. So if they cancel it, there are additional counts that we could help for the immediate the inspection needs as well. So this is more also cooperation that we need from our customers as well.
Okay. So it sounds like the people, processes, and technology that we're talking about for the permitting process also needs to be applied to the inspections process, and that would be great. The other question I had is about the throughput. So I understand the proposed performance measures. This is on slide 9. Yeah, I understand reduce the amount of time spent processing applications. So the baseline would be, what is the time spent processing applications? Now, I understand ease of use because you're saying reduce staff time involved, so you can baseline staff time. Increase the efficiency of applications does not seem like a metric to me. So how are you measuring, how are you going to baseline and measure throughput?
Yes, so speed and throughput are very similar. Speed, I think of in terms of time. Throughput could be in terms of how many review cycles. So for instance, number of review cycles is, I think, a good metric that shows both how prepared customers are and also how easily they can get through our process. So the efficiency.
Okay, and then that sounds good. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales?
Yeah, I just wanted to add in regards to that conversation on the inspections that at the Silicon Valley Organization study mission, I had a developer sort of admit to me that one of the tactics that's used is to, in order to get in front of, right, this delay, is to schedule inspections, right, that they may not necessarily know that they'll actually achieve that date or need that date. And so they recognize, because of the challenges right now that we have, they're also exacerbating that problem by scheduling these inspections that then they may cancel or not need. So but there was a recognition, right, that there is that side of it too. It's not only internal, but the reality is that, like, if we can fix that, then we also need to make sure that the message gets sent out to the individuals that need the inspections, not to abuse the system in that way. And so I think that it's at the moment, right, nobody's helping themselves, right, on either side at the moment.
Yeah, and the point I want to make about that is that I think we know that there's a certain group that's savvy about that and know about the backlog, and then there are the homeowners that I'm hearing from that get a water heater replaced or change their furnace out and then can't get the inspection in and have to wait for 3 weeks, and then when they get it, we're going to come sometime on that day. So you have to take the whole day off of work, and what if for some reason you can't be there and then you haven't canceled? Do you get dinged for that? So that's kind of the point that I was trying to get at, is that yes, there are some people who are going to be savvy and who are going to make the appointments in advance and not need them and cancel them. And then there's the homeowners who are just trying to get through their daily life and I've lived in the middle of a remodel and it's not fun. And if you have to wait for your plumbing inspection to finish your wall in your kitchen, if you have to wait 3 weeks, that's a huge, huge pain in the butt. And so that's my concern, is that we have homeowners and we have more savvy developers, and they're all in the same system and calling for these same inspections, and we don't have any distinction between the two, and one of them knows the system and one of them gets the brunt of it. So if there's any way that we can address that issue, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. I mean, my hope is, right, that we also can solve that part of that problem, because I think, for one, I appreciate the honest recognition, right, from the individual that told me this, which I won't dime him out, but I think you also are aware of that, and so how do we stop that as well, right? How do we fix sort of the backlog, but also how do we stop the fact that people are sort of, that are savvy to this, right, will utilize that, and then ultimately, right, there's a cancellation and that doesn't benefit anybody, so.
I appreciate the comment, council member. And also, as we look for different options, I just wanted to address for single-family homes and ADUs and smaller projects, what we are trying to do is that about a month or 2 months ago, we start having those inspections when we do our overtime, especially on Saturdays. So we are kind of limiting, rather than big projects who have staff to kind of look into and call in for a systematic inspections, but rather for smaller projects so they can kind of have some priority on our scheduling. So especially on Saturday inspections and any other overtime inspections, we've been giving a priority to a smaller single-family homes and ADUs.
Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. I think communication is key here, that if we have inspections scheduled, particularly with your savvy developers that are pre-gaming the system by scheduling ahead of time, thinking they're going to be ready, and then they're not. Maybe we can contact them in advance and confirm the appointment, and then once that they cancel, then we can move someone else in, making that someone else really happy that we move their appointment up if we possibly can do that. So really, it's keeping an open line of communication. I don't think we can really tell people, don't schedule your appointments. They're going to do it in anticipation of being ready. Maybe they think they'll be ready in hopes that they'll get their inspection on time. But really, if we can communicate with everybody and then move everybody up as quickly as possible, that will make everybody a little bit happier.
Thank you. And I just wanted, before I move on, is there any way that, that there is some criteria that is set up so that those who are savvier and are setting up these appointments aren't bottlenecking that process, and then suddenly cancel or are taking up appointments that may not be used by those individuals?
Yes, council member. So really the resolution to that issue, we don't mind customers scheduling appointments when they think they're going to be ready for inspection. By all means, we want them to schedule. However, if they get to a point where they know they're not going to be ready, if they can just cancel it, right? And then that appointment becomes open and available for us to put another customer in. So it's just a matter of our customers, when they do realize they're not going to be ready, just to cancel the appointment so we can free it up in the system and put someone else in.
So if they don't cancel with ample time, do they get dinged?
We find on some occasions, not all, obviously, that the cancellations aren't made. So it's just a waste of an appointment, right? If we don't get a cancellation. So I think what we can do is just work more closely, particularly with our large developers, the folks that we work with regularly. We can work with them more closely once we do see that inspections are scheduled, just to do the check-in to make sure that they will be ready, and if not, to just go ahead and cancel, and we can get other customers into those appointments.
So the inspectors show up when they don't get canceled, the inspectors still show up, and then you find that they weren't ready for the inspection?
That's correct.
So they don't get dinged like a doctor who gets so given the fact that our staff still goes out there for an inspection that's not ready for, or for an appointment that's not ready for an inspection, I would think that since this is cost recovery, that they should be dinged.
Yeah, no, actually they pay for that inspection.
Oh, so they're still paying for
Yeah,
the inspection?
absolutely, right. Just their work is not ready, or just no one's there. But one thing that I wanted to mention is that we do have a area supervisor throughout the San Jose. So they are a supervisor inspector, and they work closely with many different contractors and developers. And when they go and they provide feedback, and they also talk about that whether inspection will be ready, and I have one for next week, what do you think? So what I'm trying to say is that there are a positive, constructive communication between our staff and the contractor in order to provide more effective service to them. So it's kind of, that's working, is working well, and some of the contractors, they are not aware of this. So we are promoting this more and more, and I think it's just a attempt that we need to continue to provide, that we have this type of services, and also improve on our communication in the field, and also look for different options as we move forward.
Okay. Well, and as long as they're aware that they're still paying for an appointment that doesn't produce any fruit, and they're still on the hook for that appointment. A couple of things. Thank you so much, by the way. This is of course a huge endeavor, and at the end of the day, what we want to do is make sure that our staff is well equipped to deal with the growing needs of a growing city, and that we're able to set them up for successes with the growing demands, but also that we become increasingly more customer friendly, and that we can, of course, this is the ad hoc committee to make sure that we're on track with a very ambitious endeavor, and we're currently not, but that we can figure out how we're going to produce and support a housing crisis, and make sure that we those who want to be part of the solution have all the tools available to them. A couple of things, and we'll get into more of the conversation, of course, as we go on, but on Councilmember Deb Davis brought up a point on page number 5 with the staff, the 6 new staff that weren't all filled. The only thing I'm concerned about that, if we don't move that item that was incomplete, how do we keep track of it if we don't mention it on the next page? I just want to make sure that it doesn't fall off our radar.
It is not off our radar.
I know it's not off your radar. I want to make sure it's not off our radar. You know,
find
sometimes
a
we
way
have
to
so
bring
many
it
things that are going on.
We'll find a way to bring it forward, so we
Okay.
can report what things and what we're doing with them,
Yeah.
and when they'll likely be landed. Of those 6, 5 have been onboarded to date already, so it's just whether they're meeting at that time, because again, this is September 30. When we had them complete, we didn't have half of them onboarded. Several of them had offer letters, just whether they're in the house by then, they didn't make that mark. So as of today, there's 5 of 6 on board and in working right now.
And I think that this, for me, more than anything, because I'm very visual, is just making sure how we keep our goals on track, and how we're just continue. You know, as we don't meet every month, we don't meet every week, we meet every several months, and just keeping us aware of the wonderful work that you're doing, so that we can acknowledge and recognize, and as we're moving the needle, just so that we're just very you know, like I said, we've got so many other things that are happening. It's very difficult for us to always know what you're doing, and there's so much going on. So just so that we can keep a visual of it, I think being able to keep a running tab as we see these reports, it's very helpful.
I absolutely agree, and I just want to add one other thing that Matt mentioned earlier, and I want to echo, which is that we are we just started using OKRs in January of this year, so this is definitely a muscle we're continuing to practice. One of the things that that we're going to be more diligent about going forward is improving what we call our say-do ratio, which is that we're closer to doing 100% of what we say we're going to do. Obviously, in Q3, we missed the mark by a long ways. One of the things that I would hope is that our scorecard is much more green, and we won't have a lot of things that we have to continue to track moving forwards. So absolutely hear that, but wanted to just mention that our goal is that we would have mostly greens and yellows so that we don't have to keep tracking it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Well, thank you again, and thank you so much for getting you know, the large team, you know, 70 people that committed to come in and making sure that that we're moving forward. And changes are really difficult for folks, especially when they're so used to doing things a certain way, and it can be a little intimidating even when it's good for you. And so I appreciate this monumental change in the way that things are being done. But your department plays such an important role in the city of San Jose, especially as we're really trying to support all those who want to be part of solutions for the housing crisis, but even those who just want to upgrade their kitchen or their bathroom, or suddenly find themselves having to put safeguards in their showers. It makes a big difference, so I really appreciate that. And with that, I will entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? I hear none, and that motion passes. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Moving on to our second report, which is the accessory dwelling unit update.
Thank you, council members.
Welcome, Rosalind.
As part of the work that reporting on to the ad hoc committee is how we're doing on permit issuance for ADUs. And as you can see in this slide, permit issuance is just continuing to increase quarter by quarter. So if you take a look at the numbers, I mean, just in the third quarter of this year, you'll see that we have issued 118 permits as compared to third quarter last year at 55. So this is over 110% increase. So the great news is we see that our residents are more and more interested in ADUs and getting them built in their backyards. So we are continuing to try to meet the demand. So this slide actually speaks to some of the items that we have deployed to accommodate this customer demand. So you'll see in this slide, we've categorized our initiatives into two different areas. So first is customer readiness, and then the other side indicates expediting the review process. So under customer readiness, as you know, we have created the ADU LI position, and Sarah Shaw is doing a great job responding to many of the questions that our ADU customers have and preparing them for permit applications. We've also developed a universal checklist, and this is where we have consolidated everything that a customer will need, all the requirements from planning, building, public works, and fire into one checklist. And then lastly, we have spent a bit of time updating our ADU website to make sure that we have just a host of information available to our customers. To expedite the permitting process, as you know, in August of this year, we launched ADU Tuesdays, and that continues to be very successful. We have instituted master plans, and currently we have 3 vendors that are part of this program. So this allows customers to actually choose a pre-approved plan for the ADU unit and enables them to get through the permitting process faster. And then our newest initiative is the inspection checklist that staff is currently working on. We think this will be ready to be released within the next week. And we understand that customers can use this checklist to avoid costly mistakes by planning ahead of time for successful inspections. Also just wanted to point out, also in response to the big demand that we have on ADU permits, we've added some resources to accommodate our customers. So first, we've actually created 2 additional express appointments on ADU Tuesdays because of the demand. We know that appointment times have been pushed out quite a bit, and so we want to continue to respond to our customers and make those appointments available on ADU Tuesdays. Secondly, we have dedicated a fire reviewer for ADU Tuesday appointments. We have also dedicated a building reviewer who specializes in ADUs to help to speed up the process for regular ADU permit applications. And then with additional staff, we are pushing ourselves and setting a target that staff will be able to get comments back to our customers within 7 days. And that completes our update on ADUs, at least the permitting process portion.
Thank you so much. Looks like Councilmember Foley's.
I'm not sure where to ask this question, so maybe it doesn't have to do with the permitting process. It has to do with portable ADUs. You pull in, they're in on wheels. Can I ask that? Are you considering those? When might we see policy or ideas you're thinking on portable ADUs?
Yes.
I know that's not what they're called.
Thank you, council member. So our understanding is that they're actually called tiny homes on wheels.
That's it. That's the word. What are we doing about those?
So we have been contacted by individuals who are interested in allowing these on single-family lots. So in essence, these are portable units that get rolled in into a backyard and in essence serves as a dwelling unit. We understand that LA recently amended their ordinance to allow these tiny homes on wheels. I think San Diego has also allowed them, and I believe Fresno. So we're going to be reaching out to those cities to get more information. Currently, you're correct, our zoning ordinance does not allow these, but certainly staff is open to exploring this idea, and based upon council direction, would be bringing this to council.
How would we make this a council priority, or council, not priority necessarily, but council direction? How would we instruct you to move forward in that, in investigating?
Sure. Well, I think one idea, currently our department, along with the housing department, we are scheduled to bring to city council the final ADU amnesty program on December 17th. And the housing department is also bringing back to council the forgivable loan program also on that date. And that might be an opportunity for council to give staff direction to look into the tiny homes on wheels. I mean, currently, this work is not on our work plan. Again, we're open to exploring the ideas, but think it's important that we do get direction from council given all of the other priorities that we have on our work plan.
Okay. Okay. I'm fairly new at this, so I'm trying to figure out how to handle this. I can do a memo, that's what I'll do. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Certainly.
Thank you, Councilmember Foley. You can do a memo on anything, at any time during the year, even while we're on break. No one will read it. But it'll be in the queue. Thank you. Any other comment, Councilmember Perales?
Yeah, thank you. So question in regards to if you can go back to slide 12. Just kind of curious on it looks like, and this is a positive sign, but if you're the staff actually working on these, maybe it's not a positive sign. So I'm kind of curious what the response is from staff on the workload, the increases, how this is, and if we expect, right, this trajectory to continue to maybe go up, what has that been? I don't know what this actually looks like, right, from the staff side of things. Is this daunting, or has been totally manageable?
Great question, council members. So what we are doing is we are doing our best to respond to the demand given our current staffing level. So I actually mentioned in this particular slide what we've done in the interim to dedicate reviewers to ADUs. To the extent that we can shift staff to this work and process the permit applications, we will. But I'll be quite honest that staff is actually preparing to do budget proposals for the next budget process, because if we continue with this demand, we're certainly going to need more staffing resources. So we are already preparing for that. I mean, going back to the chart, you can see we just anticipate, right, that the permit demand is just going to continue, and we clearly need the staff resources to accommodate the demand.
Okay, and then this ADU ally, is that just one person, or what does that look like?
Exactly, that is one person. So that, and Sarah is doing a fantastic job, but she's in high demand, and she's getting lots of requests for assistance, and that is actually one area that we are looking to expand that ally program and perhaps add at least one, if not more than one ADU allies to accommodate our customers.
And that's also then a request you'll be making within the budget process?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Davis?
Thank you. Thank you for this update. I think it's great to see that the policy changes that we made are actually having an impact. I'm sorry that it's negatively impacting your department, but I think it's great that we're actually increasing production. Or at least I hope all these permits that get issued are actually being built. Question about the master plan. Did I hear you say we have 3 pre-approved master plans now? Or 3 vendors? And where are we at in the pre-approved plans?
That is correct. We have 3 that have been pre-approved, and I'll ask James to give more information.
Yes, so we have about 8 to 9 vendors that we had preliminary meetings on. What that means is they have each vendor has a different models. They might have a model A, B, C, and so on. Mm-hmm. And we've been working with them. So far, we have 1 solid approved a month ago. That there are 2 models that one of the vendors are pursuing. From our eye, it's been approved, but they haven't really submitted a nice, clean copy for us to finalize it. So it's kind of pending on our customer. Also, another thing is because of the code change, they have to go through this process again. So some of the vendors are kind of hesitant, holding back until next year, or they are submitting for a 2019 new code, so it can be more attractive for their business.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. So it sounds like we have 1 pre-approved, we have 2 mostly approved.
It's pending on them.
And then there's some in the pipeline waiting for the REACH code and the January 2020
Exactly right,
changes.
because it's change and prohibiting gas, natural gas for ADUs as well. So it's a slightly different approach from design concept. So I think that some of them actually are working through this, and we'll see more in early next year. At least that's what I'm anticipating.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other comments from my colleagues? Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank you for the work that you're doing with the ADUs. Of course, I used to know them as the granny flats. I used to live in one of those old homes when I was growing up where my relatives who came to work in the canneries lived in the granny flats. And I have no idea whether they were permitted or if they needed permitting at the time, but they were a very critical component of my family and having a safe place for me while my parents worked, because my extended family lived there. But it was just a very, I think back of how, what a critical piece that was in the formation of who I was, but also in terms of how it helped my family establish themselves here. It was the leg up that they needed. My entire family just about became homeowners because they had a place to land, they had a place to be safe and to be supported by my parents. My parents were the homeowners, and then everybody else landed in the granny flat in the back. And so we had a really very nice Carrasco compound. Yeah, actually in your district. Yeah, so it was very nice. That was a very long time ago. So I'm glad that this is an opportunity that we're giving families right now in such difficult times. So thank you so much for that. And as we can see, those numbers are going up, and they're going up very, very quickly. Thank you for that. And the master plans, I think, will make a huge difference. Because when I started looking to see what it would cost to design it, I mean, that was a huge cost. So it makes a difference.
If I may add, as a matter of fact, we have been contacted by City of LA Mayor's office to look into this master plan program that we have. So I've been communicating with them a couple of days ago, and they are trying to see how this is working out for our city, and they want to implement something similar to what we are doing. Just an FYI.
That's great. Love it when LA has to contact us. Thank you so much. If there's no other comments, I will entertain a motion to accept.
So moved. Second.
And with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Thank you so much, and that passes unanimously. On to our third presentation, which is also our ADUs. This is the amnesty program update.
Yes, thank you. So back in September, staff brought to City Council options to create an ADU amnesty program. And we got direction from council in terms of the path that we wanted to take forward. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be bringing that final program back for council action on December 17th. And back in September, we did receive council direction to do some additional analysis and present at the ad hoc committee. So this slide just outlines the items that we were asked to take a look at and to share with the committee. So first, it's just an assessment of costs of waiving business taxes and reducing or waiving permit application fees and impact fees. We were asked to explore third-party inspectors and looking at limiting inspections to just the ADU unit only and not other items to inspect. We were asked to identify the most hazardous health and safety code violations, to research loans or grant programs that would be available to our customers, and to also explore additional zoning ordinance requirements that could be waived. We were also asked to look at a self-assessment checklist and also directed to allow junior ADUs in our zoning ordinance. So today we just want to provide you some initial information that we were able to gather. Again, we'll provide more details to the full council on December 17th. So in terms of assessing the cost of waiving business taxes and impact or permit application fees, for the business tax, in our analysis, we learned that the business tax for people who own an ADU and lease it out, it's based on 1 to 2 units. So obviously an ADU would count for 1 unit. Their business tax, their annual business tax is $200.85 per year. So that's the cost for each individual. Also in our work, we learned that currently the city does have an existing financial hardship exemption for owners of businesses or ADUs if they charge approximately $2,000 for a month in rent. So this is really based on the threshold for the city exemption, which is $25,000 annually in business income. So what we did, we just took that $25,000 and divided up by 12 months, which would give you the $2,000 per month. So we will be suggesting when we come back in December to council that instead of creating another process to waive the business tax, that our customers who are looking to do ADU amnesty, that they would just apply for the existing financial hardship exemption. We think that most of it, not all, of our ADU amnesty customers would qualify for that and could get that waiver through the exemption. Next, we did take a look at permit application fees and impact fees. And so currently in our process, if there is a homeowner who wants to go through the current process to legalize their illegal ADU, we actually charge an unpermitted construction penalty when they obtain the permit. And in essence, it's the cost of the permit application, which is about $4,000 in terms of permit application fees. So in essence, we would charge the penalty, which would be another $4,000. So obviously, if council would be interested in waiving that penalty, we could certainly do that, and that obviously would help those ADU amnesty customers. Regarding impact fees, there's been a number of state bills that have been signed by the governor and will be going into effect January 1st of 2020. One is SB 13, which in essence waives impact fees for ADUs that are less than 750 square feet. So in essence, the city would have to comply with that state law, which means that impact fees would be waived. If the council wanted to waive impact fees for ADUs larger than that, then obviously staff would take a look at that. Next, James Sung is going to walk you through some of the additional analysis that we undertook as part of council direction.
Thank you, Rosalind. We did some additional analysis as requested by council on September 24th, and we believe there are tangible benefits of using third-party inspectors to conduct reviews and inspections for this amnesty program. We'll need to identify funding source that will be used for the program and follow up with requests for proposal to secure a third-party vendor. Inspection would be solely on unpermitted ADU unless an imminent life safety violation is identified. For example, severe structural hazards or inadequate exiting or sanitation or exposed wires. Other common health and safety violations with unpermitted units involve lacking in smoke and carbon monoxide detectors or water heater strapping to prevent fire and explosion during an earthquake. Also, Health and Safety Code covers violent urban interface in order to reduce the risk of fire spreading rapidly by wildfire. For financial resources, there is no federal or state program for ADU amnesty units. Existing programs are for home reconstruction or bring up to code is targeted towards post-disasters, affordable, low-income, or elderly occupied residents. Following our last presentation to Council, we have identified 4 building code additions that we can apply to this program. As a reminder, Senate Bill 1226 allows chief building official to apply building standards for the year the unpermitted ADU was built. And to simplify the work for our amnesty customers and staff, we have identified 4 construction errors bookmarked by important code changes. Rosalind?
And actually, that concludes our presentation on the ADU amnesty update.
Councilmember Davis.
What if they don't know when it was built?
And that's a good question, because not many homeowners will not know. There will be a self-assessment checklist, so they could identify certain things, certain items based on the lay person can actually examine their home. And in this process, also we are thinking that when city inspector goes out there, they will look at the construction that was built. And rather than going through about over 31 code additions that San Jose City has adopted, we identify based on a significant changes to the code that will have relevant impact to unpermitted units. And within that, those 4 defined code additions, it will be kind of easier for customers and staff to kind of identify a range of the year that's been constructed. And then we'll apply that code for that particular unit. Now, an option is that if a homeowner really wants to pursue, because of certain configuration of their unit, they could find a professional who could look at the unpermitted unit detailedly and find out exactly when this was constructed.
And if I may add, Rachel Roberts, Deputy Director with Code Enforcement. This is something that Code Enforcement is already doing. We often have code cases where it's construction that was built a time ago, and so there's a lot of resources available, Sanborn maps, aerial imagery, permits from the county. We look at a whole host of different resources to piece this together and draw these conclusions.
Okay, and then they're only held to the code that was the standard when it was built. Is that how we will get them permitted? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Councilmember Perales?
Yeah, thank you. In regards to the difference of fees, I think it's the next slide. Did we get to that? Sorry, no. The fees, the actual fees themselves. Am I looking at something else? Did you have a slide 19, or am I looking at one that was a draft? Or did you not get to slide 19? That's all you have.
I'm sorry, slide 19 is just a cover slide. So your question is about fees for ADU amnesty?
Yeah, and maybe I was peeking at a draft, but the question I had was in regards to, it looked like there were the difference of fees, like the plan review fee, the permit fee, the tax fees, and there was an other taxes fee. So I just was kind of curious in regards to what is that other taxes fee, but if it's not in this presentation.
Thank you, Councilmember. Yes, you're right. We have updated the draft PowerPoint presentation for this morning. And so your question is regarding the different fees that are being charged for the ADU?
Yeah, it was more in regards to the other section. There was a slide that had denoted other, so I was just kind of curious what that fee was.
James, would you know what other fees would be applied to ADUs?
So there will be, I mean, obviously permit fees and taxes that we receive. And other fees could be park fees and or school fees, which will be outside of our, out of city. So there are those other fees that are beyond our control. School fees will be one of them, and whether that's covered in Senate Bill 13 is unclear at this point. And there is some compliance fee with, Rosalind already covered that, that's, we call it penalty for unpermitted units.
Okay.
And so actually, I'm just getting information from staff. Thank you, Alex. So the additional fees, these are Public Works and Fire Department optional fees that may be charged, attributed to the ADU application,
Public Works and Fire Department optional fees.
if they're required.
Okay.
So I guess that's based upon if Public Works review and additional Fire Department review are required, then these would be charged.
Got it.
So an example for it would be geohazard clearance, so that would be an additional fee charged.
Okay. So not optional, they would be,
Exactly.
they're additional if they're required.
Additional
All right.
based upon the unique characteristics of that particular site, yes.
Okay. Thank you, that was my only question.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, yeah, thank you for reminding me. On slide number, well, the slide, the ADU amnesty background, I don't know what slide that would be. It says in the full package, it says slide 16. Oh, it's right here. Junior ADU, does that, what are the characteristics of a junior ADU?
Yes, so a junior ADU is an attached ADU that is within the footprint of the existing primary structure. So we shared with the City Council back in September when we presented some of the zoning changes. Currently, and now we're going to have to, because the state is mandating that cities do allow junior ADUs, and so part of the zoning ordinance changes that we're bringing to City Council next month will include the zoning change to actually allow a junior ADU.
So is that like an attached, is that an
It
attached
is
garage?
attached. It's attached to the primary structure. James, I have that correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's defined as within the existing main home roof.
Yeah, the primary home.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be like an extension of the house? Uh-huh.
Physically, it would look like an addition, right, to an
Okay.
existing primary home.
Okay. With a private entrance, I suppose.
So often it is something such as a garage conversion, or it could be a bedroom that they've turned into a separate unit. It could be a family room, it could be a sunroom. It's just already part of the existing footprint of the residence.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Does it have its own kitchenette? No kitchenette.
And actually, as part of, and I don't have the information in front of me, but part of the state law that is now requiring all cities to allow junior ADUs, they do specify in terms of the bathroom requirement and the kitchen requirement. So obviously, the city is going to have to conform with the new state law.
And if I may, so even though it says junior ADUs, it has to be within the primary footprint. But however, new state bill says that you could have a full kitchen. So in a way, one property, you can have a existing home converted, a room converted to a junior ADU with full kitchen, and you can have a detached ADU. So technically, you can have two ADUs in one property.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps a little bit to how you visualize these junior ADUs.
Yes. Okay, more to come. Thank you so much. When is that coming back, by the way?
December 17th.
December 17th. Okay, thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for your work on this. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Thank you so much. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? That passes unanimously. On to our fourth and final report. That's the housing production indicators update.
Thank you, Councilmember. Rachel Vanderveen of the Housing Department will provide an update on the housing production numbers. And she is also joined by Jared Ferguson of the Office of Economic Development.
All right, good morning. So what we wanted to provide with you today as part of our standard presentation for this committee is an update on our progress towards meeting the city's goals of building building market rate 20,000 and 10,000 of those being affordable. And so what we have today is a presentation that shows you different time periods. So the beginning of our challenge towards meeting this goal was January 2018, and then it comes, all the data goes through September of 2019. And what we wanted to highlight this time around is that in the most recent quarter, Second Street Studios, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, received its occupancy permit in July, actually, and you can see in the last column there that the affordable number is now over 200, and that is really because of the recent accomplishment of opening up Second Street Studios. And there are also a couple of other projects that are coming up shortly in the future. So just so you know, the Villas on the Park is actually leasing up right now, and Renaissance Place is also another affordable housing development that is just about to start leasing. So those are still in the, they actually received building permits in the period earlier, but they will be finishing very, very soon. So we're just excited that we can report some of those accomplishments, and we're available for any questions that you have.
Any questions? Concerns? Concerns. Would you like to go on record? Councilmember Perales?
Sure, just only, yes, I mean, we're all sharing concerns of, right, not enough. But thank you for the update on this. I just finished touring one of the tiny home sites in Seattle over the weekend, and the group that's running that is Lehigh, I believe, Low Housing Institute, or Low Income Housing Institute. And they ended up getting on board in 3 years, 9 tiny home sites, all averaging around 40 units. So in the same time frame that we're going to get one tiny home site of 40 units, they've managed to do 9 of them, and they did actually spread that out amongst their city in the different council districts. And in talking to them around the process and just sort of what helped them move things a little faster, now this was not necessarily maybe favorable to community members wanting to engage, but it's similar to what I think we're seeing happen at the state level in regards to production of, right, affordable housing and moving that process faster. And they took that approach internally without necessarily any of their state support, where they went out, they cited these locations similar to what we did. But when they came forward to the community with, at best, 30 to 60 days, but most 30 days of notice. And it wasn't an option. It was, they had declared a state of emergency, just as we had here, on a need for housing. And when they came forward, they said, these are the sites. this is where we're doing it, and here's the areas that you can actually chime in to, to help. And it was things around setback. It was smaller issues. It wasn't siting. It wasn't actual where can these developments go. Now this is just an example on the tiny homes, but for me, what it shows is, and I'll fast forward. They have created with each of these sites community advisory councils, and a number of individuals that were part of these community, they're still part of these community advisory councils, were people that were not very supportive or weren't necessarily on board at first, but this is how they brought them in to be a part of the process. And today, most everybody is, very supportive now because they've seen the successes, they've dealt with some of the issues. But essentially what they did was they just dove in. It's like going into the water in Santa Cruz, right? You can't tiptoe, otherwise you'll leave. You have to just dive in. And that's what I think why they saw so much success. And so it is a bit of a trade-off, right? Is it because what we've done, and in regards to sort of going out in some of this especially around affordable housing options, I think we end up getting in our own way, and we have now, right, stalled process in progress. And so there's no way we're going to hit our 25,000 unit goal. Granted, that's going to include a lot of market rate as well, right? But specifically on the affordable and is the process as well that I had gone through with Second Street Studios and Villas on the Park, which started housing people last week. When those processes, right, themselves, outside of the normal, staff process that it's going to take, when the community process itself takes a year, right, we're not going to hit these goals. So I actually, speaks to why I like the work that's going on right now out in District 1, and I think maybe Deb, your district, in regards to getting in front of that, right? Before you even have a project, try to get some of that community work out of the way, so then that way we don't have to spend, once we have a project and we're ready to go, we don't have to spend another year, trying to gather community support, and it's just going to stall it. So it was just a recollection of sort of how quickly they were able to advance and get some of these solutions up. And I think we, whether it's with state support or whether we're doing it ourselves here faster, if we're really going to achieve the goals that we want, we have to speed up the process. So otherwise, I think the report is just just stating some stats here. So I'm willing to make a motion to approve it. So.
Thank you. And yes, well, we all know that we're a little off target. And I had mentioned before, some of us are very visual in the way that we see data. I had asked before to have some graph on the affordable housing units that we've lost, for different reasons, of course, and I don't see it here. But could we also, for our next report, have a graph that shows us, our goals for each? We have a 25,000 unit goal. It's okay for us to put it there, and we all know that we're not on target. It's not a secret, it's not a mystery, and no one's getting dinged for it by any means. But it's just nice for us to just have it there and show where we're making strides and where we're not. And it allows us to be very, very frank with ourselves and very transparent about what we need to do, and as Councilmember Perales, maybe just some of the upfront work that we may have to do, or I don't know. I mean, just start brainstorming some other ideas. I think all of us are really looking to see how we further this work. And all the reports that we just heard today are an effort for this final report, which is our target goals. And so, so this to me, states some of what we already know, but it would be nice to have a real breakdown of this information and to have it in some graph form. So if you could provide that for the next report, I'd really appreciate that. Any other comments or concerns? Other concerns? Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor, and with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's a unanimous vote with no opposition. Thank you so much. And I've not received any cards. Oh, hello, Mr. Jerry. Come on down. We're on to open forum.
Hello.
Good morning.
Jerry DeYoung, Ruth and Going. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I would ask, however, Madam Chair, that in the future that you consider allowing members of the public to speak while you're discussing the item. I'm going to say a few things that I want to turn that way and look at Robert Manford or look at somebody else, and they're already gone. They moved on to other things. So it loses our opportunity to have a conversation with them or to point directly to them. Today I'm going to point directly and thanking someone, and unfortunately he isn't here. So let me start out by the first one, is that last time I was here, a quarter ago, I'll add out, I threw a big rock in the pond and pointed to Public Works and said, it's broken. As a result of that, I had the opportunity to meet directly with Matt Loesch a week later and Ryan Doe, his division manager, and we talked about some of the issues that I was concerned about. Those issues are being moved once again back into a monthly meeting with the development community representatives in which we have an opportunity once a month to talk about issues, to try to resolve issues. So Matt, wherever you are, I know you're not here anymore. I know he's listening, or Kim, or somebody will pass it on. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. What it's taught me is this is an opportunity for the business community and others to come and talk about things, to throw something in the pond to make a big wave, and it will be dealt with in a much more rapid manner than me trying to chase Matt or Rosalind or somebody else. The other one I'd like to talk about very briefly is the customer satisfaction survey. I've been doing this since 2006. In 2014, I quit doing it. I quit doing it because when I gave the city planning staff an F, that's the red, in my opinion, over on the right-hand side, there was no outcome. The third time I talked to the person who called me from True North, I said, why is it that I give the planning department an F, but nobody ever calls me? And she essentially said, all of this is aggregated up and we're doing it for anonymous reasons. I said, I don't want to be anonymous. I want you to tell in your presentation to the planning staff that they have a very unhappy customer. I never got a call from a planner, from a planning director, from a division manager, from anybody else. So if you're going to only be concerned about the green and not worry about the red, I would suggest that's the wrong approach, that you may not really care a lot about customer service. I think you need to be paying attention to the red, what's happening over there, because the red is what contributes to the city. When you have a developer who comes in and doesn't like the service.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else? And anyone is welcome to speak for any of the items during our meeting. I didn't receive any yellow cards. I guess I should have asked during the meeting if there was anybody. Councilmember Prowse, did you have something that you wanted to add?
I did. While we're in the thanking mood, being that James is still here, I just wanted to thank you, James, for your efforts and your team's efforts in helping my staff over the last couple months. David wanted to make sure that I reflected that, and to the comments just made, while somebody's still in the room, I wanted to take advantage of saying thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Prowse. And with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.